Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for June 19th, 2025. I'm Dave DuFour here with Es Baraheni. Coming up, Tyrese Haliburton is questionable for Game 6. We're going to get the latest on that. And then Keith Parish from Grits and Grinds and Fast Break Breakfast is here to talk all things Memphis and how the Desmond Bane trade affects their season. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Es.
Good morning.
Not great news as we look forward to tonight's Game 6 between the Pacers and the Thunder in the NBA Finals. Tyrese Haliburton has a strained calf, and it may keep him out. We felt like it was over just when he was limping around out there. If he doesn't play, how much of a chance, can we even give the Pacers for extending this to 7 games?
Yeah, it's hard to count them out because of just how crazy their playoff run has been, because of the fact that they've won a lot of games that they were not supposed to win, and they did it in a fashion that was so convincing that even in moments like this, without their intrepid superstar, you kind of believe they have a chance regardless. And it's because they have that next man up type of mentality. But what a deflating way for this season to end for the Pacers if it does end tonight, right? Because of how incredible this run has been. They were the second best team, in the NBA since January. They deservedly made it to the finals. They earned their way there by beating top teams. You think of the win over the Cavs, despite the injuries. You think of the win over the Knicks and the battle that they had, the game winners, the massive shots that Haliburton himself hit to cement himself as a guy who, hey, I can lead a team if the team around me is built properly to a finals run. It's just a very deflating way to end this season if it does end tonight. Yeah,
and my guess is he's going to try to give it a go. This guy he's been playing through injuries for the last couple seasons. We've seen him look diminished, but he's been out there. I do think that if he starts to look like he did in Game 5, you've got to have a quick hook if you're Rick Carlisle, because he actively hurt them in the second half, especially. Yeah,
and you don't want him to re-aggravate or aggravate it further, right? Yeah, exactly.
A calf issue can become an Achilles issue, could become a knee issue. You just got to be careful there. But also you got to play the better players that you've got. If he's not able to go, there's been a lot of talk. I mean, we even mentioned this the other night. Do you need more TJ McConnell? I feel like that can be a trap, especially with a guy, the way that he plays, to expect him to be able to play at that level, that intensity for a full, let's say 30 minutes instead of the 18 to 20 that he typically does. I would almost lean towards starting, Ben Shepherd. And that way you've got some defense out there. Of course, your ball handling is not going to be as, what you need against the Thunder, but at least you've got another guy that you can throw at Shea and makes your switching defense a little bit easier.
This is why they traded for Pascal Siakam, in the sense that they've had moments where they've had to shift their identity to be more of a Pascal Siakam type of team, especially at the start of the season. When Haliburton was laboring through that back issue, it was, hey, let's lean on Pascal Siakam post ups. Let's run our offense through Siakam. And they're going to need that in Game 6 as well. So they kind of know how to deal with a limited Haliburton, right? They have that experience. If they can do that for one game, the other guy I could think of is if Ben Mathurin can just have another big night for them. I know he was massive one time in this series and that 27-point performance. If he can repeat himself here, get downhill, force the defense to crash, that's the type of performance you need from the Pacers if they want to pull this out.
Yeah, I mean, there's this exercise that we always do in playoff series. How do they win without blank? The truth is, if you lose a guy from your starting 5, I mean, you're in a tough spot. Just elevating a guy from the bench, you're just never going to get the same production. Yeah. But they really just need everyone to go off. They need another bench night. They need Pascal Siakam, probably 35 plus. They need him to put them on their back, and especially down the stretch when it looked like, again, I'm going back to Game 5, they had nothing going. And I feel like it was yet another opportunity similar to Game 4, where when their offense stalls out, that's the time where you need to see those Pascal Siakam touches in the post, especially up around the elbow, and have everyone else sort of operate off of that. It's also, you're going to need a big Miles Turner game offensively. He's going to have to hit some shots for them. It needs to be, more more volume from 3 probably to open up the inside for him.
Yeah, this is also a big opportunity for Andrew Nembhard to be like, hey, I've had a somewhat quiet series here in the finals, and I can kind of put my stamp on it here. He was awesome in that first game, generating paint touches for them so that, the Obi Toppins of the world and the Miles Turners of the world could get some open looks. They need that exact type of player in this series and in this final game to get them some good looks offensively. So Nembhard can kind of prove himself too. We've seen moments where he's been able to go off and like drop 20, drop 25 when they need it. You need it a lot on this game.
Right. I mean, look, the Thunder defense, if you can get into the paint against them, this is where TJ McConnell has had all of his success. The amount of offense that they generate, the Pacers, when they get into the paint, you can see that the eye test is there. Yeah. And so, if Nembhard can just drive to the basket more often, it's just tough. That's a tough ask against the Oklahoma City Thunder because they send 4 guys out above the break and they're pushing all these screens. NBA teams want to set high screens far away from the basket, unless you're playing the Thunder. Because what you're doing is you're allowing them this playmaking space defensively where you have to throw harder passes. And I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the game he had in game 5 defensively is going to go completely overlooked because not only did he put up 31 and 10, but, J-Dub puts up 40, but he was feasting because of the way that defense was pushing them up high.
Yeah, it's hard to say that they've figured out what they need to offensively because there's still moments where they go through these lulls offensively. Yeah. But the way that they have leaned on both SGA and J-Dub to drive and get downhill and to generate good looks for them offensively, they've just decided in this series, it's like, hey, if we're going to win this series, it's off the back of our 2 best players.
Right.
And they did that in game 4. They did that in game 5. This is where you look at the series and say, okay, well, the Thunder have sort of figured them out. And they've done it in a fashion where, look, they're the better defensive team. They know what they can do, to your point, pressuring up high. And now the offensive side of the ball is making more sense for them because they're leaning on J-Dub and SGA to close it out. The question I have for OKC is like, hey, you've had a performance in this series where you won a game knocking down 3 threes. I'm not sure you can necessarily pull that off in game 6. Right. I think you need to have a good offensive game, especially if you don't want to leave the door open for Indy. That's the type of performance you need. You need the Cason Wallaces of the world to knock down a couple shots. You need Aaron Wiggins to knock down a couple shots. That's the way this Thunder team will win this game.
And now that everyone's counting out the Pacers, they could probably push this to 7 games.
Exactly.
That's just how they are. They do not do things normally. I don't know. I would love to get 7 games out of this series. So hopefully they figure out a way to compete in game 6. Whether Haliburton's available or not. Guys, stick around after the break. My good buddy Keith Parish is here to talk to us about the Desmond Bane trade and what is next for Memphis. Seemingly out of nowhere, Desmond Bane was traded to the Orlando Magic for a pretty good haul. Here to talk about it, the host of Fast Break Breakfast and Grits and Grinds, Memphis Grizzlies podcast, my good buddy Keith Parish. Keith, welcome back to the show. This was a surprising trade. Did you see this coming at all?
I did not see it coming necessarily. I mean, in retrospect, you can maybe draw some connection points to things that Zach Kleiman said at the end of the season media availability. He was asked, is this core good enough to win? Do you still believe Ja, Jaren, and Desmond can win an NBA title? And he didn't say no, but he didn't say yes, which came across loud and clear. And then he talked about, we're not trading Ja Morant. He said that before a couple times. And then he's talking about signing Jaren Jackson Jr. So notably omitted would be Desmond Bane. But still, I figured when you looked at the Western Conference, you looked at maybe how some teams were going to take steps back, how this new CBA with this virtual hard cap seemed challenging on everyone. You see the Pacers breaking through in the East, and you have kind of this, why not us? Like the Grizzlies won 48 games last year, and it wasn't even like an amazing season. They started 2 rookies all year. Yeah. It's like, well, they could just get better, and then they're right there on the doorstep. So I'd kind of worked myself into that. But then, like you said, this was a surprise. So yes, I did not see it coming, even if some of the signs were there that I could have observed.
Yeah, in terms of the return that they got for Desmond Bane, obviously that's being talked about a lot in terms of the pick capital and getting the Suns pick. That's obviously very valuable in today's NBA and what they could potentially do with that. It's also been reported that they are looking to build around Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., that this is not a sign that they're going to retool. The question here is what would take them? What would make them change their mind to maybe decide to retool and start over with Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson?
I think quite simply, if Jaren Jackson Jr. says, I would rather play somewhere else. I mean, that's it. I don't think if Jaren wants to come back, Ja Morant has already declared on social media he's going to stay in Memphis in this week. I think it would take Jaren saying, I'm going to be honest, I would rather play somewhere else. I don't want to sign an extension. If that's the scenario, then bang, let's cash in Jaren for as much as you possibly can. But beyond that, I can't imagine they would pivot, despite the fact that you did take a pretty big step back by moving on from Desmond Bane. But I do think it might have been the situation where I think it was a combination, honestly, of, all right, what is our ceiling with this backcourt? It has some limitations despite being very good. And that combination with what Orlando offered, we were like, whoa. Yeah. Oh, I didn't think someone was going to offer us 4 first-round picks, 3 of them basically totally unprotected. Those are things we can turn into other things. Maybe we can build a better fit around Ja and Jaren.
Well, and it's not like they didn't get useful players. I mean, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I mean, you've got some problems there because he's not very big and the guys he needs to guard are big, but he can play for Memphis. He can shoot threes, he can defend, and Cole Anthony can come off the bench for them. So like there's a world in which they just roll it out next year with these guys and they still have some assets that they can move at the deadline. They can improve where they don't take a huge drop off by losing Desmond Bane. I mean, you think that they're done this summer? Like, do you see these guys like KCP? Is he part of the team next year? Or you think that that's a contract that they want to maybe flip into another player or two?
I would assume they're going to try to flip. At the very least, they're flipping Cole Anthony. I think they're going to be interested in flipping KCP. I mean, KCP, he's a great 3-and-D prototype of player. The worry, of course, is the age and him not being able to perform outside of like Jokic. I know, of course, won a title with the Lakers. He's been this ideal role player. He didn't give the Magic exactly what they wanted there. I think regardless of his on-court play right now, he's viewed as a negative asset with the contract he has, the player option 2026-27. So like, yeah, I think he can help the Grizzlies on the court, but also if they can trade him for an even better player, that is what they're going to do. And as far as are they done this summer, I would be outraged if they were. I mean, this is not like, I'm not excited about, I feel like if you have Ja and Jaren, if they're going to hopefully get an extension done with Jaren. But if you have Ja and Jaren, you owe it to yourselves to build a more competitive team around them. Right. Saying we turned Desmond Bane into Cole Anthony and KCP, no, that does not get it done. That is not a step forward.
So give me some names. Who do you think would be like a target of yours from the Grizzlies' perspective?
I mean, I'm a broken record where I've just wanted Cam Johnson on the team. And anytime a player like that's sort of available, maybe it wasn't an ideal fit with Desmond Bane, but now like it does feel like an even better fit. You wonder if the asking price might be coming down for the Nets. If you can throw in one of these unprotected assets, there are, coming up with like, who are the wings with size who are available out there and you want the shooting. I mean,
the price is so high though, Keith. I mean, like Trey Murphy, who we talked about on the stream.
Trey Murphy would be a great one.
Trey Murphy would be perfect there.
So what if the Grizzlies offer 3 first-round picks and KCP? Is that like, what are the Pelicans looking for? I think a Herb Jones, maybe the price is a little bit lower. Yeah. Like, that sounds like something pretty nice. That's one where you could use the Cole Anthony salary and then save the KCP salary for something bigger. I mean, I think if I had to guess what's going to happen, I still think they might go into the season with this team. Like maybe they don't actually move Cole Anthony because, again, the shopping prices change when it goes into the season. Teams pivot. I mean, you have to look. I think you have to look at just what the motivations are for so many teams in the league. Like, are the Cavaliers going to drastically cut payroll? Are the Celtics going to have a fire sale? And you say, like, wait a minute, you tell me Jaylen Brown's actually available? Or like, wait, we can have Derek White? Like, we're listening. And so the positive thing from the Grizzlies angle, if you felt like you'd capped out with Bane and Jaren and Ja, now you have legitimately given yourselves the assets that you can use in a trade. You have broken up that Bane deal into two more manageable salaries that you can trade for a lot of stuff. Even if they re-sign Jaren to everything they can give him this offseason, even if they retain Santi Aldama, they still will have space under the luxury tax to have some mismatched salaries where they can send out and bring back more. I mean, you could get like a John Collins, maybe for nothing from Utah, just guys who can help around the edges. Whether or not that moves you into like the upper tier of the Western Conference, I don't know. But at the very least, you should, I think, be able to build around Ja and Jaren and maybe do so in a way they think is long-term going to be more effective than what they had with Desmond Bane there.
I mean, healthy, this team last year was a 2 seed, until they started to kind of fall apart down the stretch, right? Like this is a team this isn't like this is a real play-in team.
It is and it isn't. So like there's a real long track record of Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. being a 2 seed. It was 2021. It was 2022. Yep. Like it was like they did it for 2 years in a row. And then last year they were the 2-3 seed for most of the season. And it just all fell apart. So like there is this like track record of like, you actually had success with this group. And I would say my criticism of what the team has done is like, you were not aggressive in building around that group. Right. Like, I don't feel like you really maxed out that group. You could say, we had Desmond Bane on the best contract in the NBA for many years because he was the 30th pick. Right. And like, you did not maximize that moment, that opportunity. Now that opportunity is gone. You're like, okay, now he's being paid for the player that he is. He's one of the best shooting guards in the NBA. Orlando obviously felt so. That's why they made this offer for him. And the Grizzlies are like, oh, well, now it's too expensive to pay him. We got to do something else. So there is a frustration there, but it's confusing where you see this success and maybe it was just regular season success. Obviously they hadn't made it past the second round or the first round, in several years. And they said, let's pivot to something else. So I don't know. It's a hard thing to parse out. And I guess you fall back to, maybe you can fall back to the thinking, okay, with Desmond Bane, maybe we're a play-in, maybe we're losing the first round team. If that is where we are right now, wouldn't we rather have all these first round picks from the Magic and still be a play-in team? Like, it's like, all right, so we're not 5th in the West. We're now 8th in the West, but we picked up this huge haul of draft capital.
How hard is it, in your opinion, do you think, to build this team out knowing that there's going to be an extension for Jaren Jackson Jr., the money that Ja Morant is owed, and an ownership group that has been, I would say, probably unwilling to pay the tax? Is that a fair way to observe it? Like, is that part of the equation of like, how are you supposed to actually build out a championship contender?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge for every team right now is how do you build a contender and at least avoid the first or second apron, but then the tax too. I feel like secretly there's like, I don't know, is there a group chat of all NBA owners where they were high-fiving that 2 non-tax teams made it to the NBA finals? They're like, see, we can do it. Why am I paying tax? These teams made it to the NBA finals without the tax. So I think there are challenges. I think some of the challenges have been overstated for the Grizzlies. And I think the way it looks to me as an outsider, it's like they've been planning for so many years to like, oh, well, we have to take care of Jaren. Where it's like, well, yeah, but you could have done other things and still taking care of Jaren. And we're still in the situation right now where they unloaded Marcus Smart. They used the 18th pick in this year's draft to do it. There's some thought that with the 16th pick they got from the Magic, they might use that to get off of John Konchar's money. And it's like, why? I mean, I understand you don't want to have Jaren Jackson Jr. going to free agency, but it's like, instead of building the team up around him, so much of what the Grizzlies have done the past several seasons have been focused on like the 2027 season. Right. And it's like, well, why didn't we try to win in the 2024 season and the 2025 season? And so it's tough. So there are challenges, obviously, with like trying to figure out, I mean, if your owner says I'm not paying tax, okay, this is now the thing we have to work with. And so, so that is harder. But all that being said, like the salary cap going up 10% each season, it's not that hard. And it's like, you can still pay a lot of really good players. You can surround Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And you can surround them with the talent I think you need. And there are still going to be, there's a lot of discounted contracts out there. There's a lot of guys making 15 to 30 million where maybe you can build it up, because the Grizzlies are going to be, they're not going to be the Magic. in a couple of years with their tax concerns. They're not going to be teams with multiple supermax guys.
Yeah.
I don't think Ja is going to qualify for a supermax, and maybe Jaren holds out trying to make the supermax, but I don't think it's more challenging than what anybody else is going through. I guess maybe it would be the shortest answer after I went on a long little spiel there.
But we've seen a bunch of teams that have made these financially motivated moves that feel like a downgrade, and they haven't been, right? Like, I mean, you look at what Minnesota did, you look at, I think that there is a way that you can kind of build on the fly to a certain degree. And right now they at least have some players. So worst case scenario, they go into next year with some guys that they can move and pieces they can flip. Keith, I mean, I guess before we get out of here, what does a good summer look like for the Grizzlies? I mean, what type of player do they bring in? Is it only this wing guy, or does it have to be a sub, somebody that's almost all-star level?
I mean, first and foremost, you got to have, I think, a near all-star level third guy. I was just for fun with some of my listeners trying to figure out like which NBA team right now has the worst third best player. And it's like, all right, first of all, who is the Grizzlies' third best player right now?
Yeah.
Is it
Santi Aldama?
Is it Santi Aldama?
It's probably Santi Aldama.
Is it Jalen Wells? Is it so like for that, you're like, listen, the Grizzlies have got by before. They've sort of sometimes feel like they solved the regular season with their depth, but like, I feel like in a vacuum, their depth is pretty bad compared to the rest of the NBA. Mm-hmm. Their 3 through 11 guys are very weak compared to the rest of the NBA. Ja Morant, of course, is not known for playing every game. Like that's the biggest issue with the Grizzlies right now. It's just Ja Morant, his availability, and can he play more than 60 games or 50 games in a year? So like first of all, they need more talent flat out.
Right.
So they need, I think that third level or that third semi-star all-star type guy. They also just need a center. Like I know Zach Edey, all rookie, but like he's injured now. Yeah. He had surgery on his ankle, going to miss the start of the year. Even with Zach Edey, the front court's very thin. You have Brandon Clark, who has his own injury concerns. Santi Aldama is a restricted free agent. So like you probably need more ball handling. Scottie Pippen Jr. was a revelation last year, but I don't think you can have just Ja Morant and Scottie Pippen Jr. and say we're done with our ball handling.
And definitely not with the style of play that they want to employ, right? Yeah. Like with that sort of pace, they need more guys.
That is the main question I have moving forward. If they don't end up making any major changes this summer, it's like, what is the success? What's the route to success for this team next season with the style of play that they want to play? Because they just lost their best shooter. And this isn't a team that was like this high volume, crazy, let's get threes up ad nauseum type of team. What is the way they're going to win? Like, what's the success route for them?
I mean, I have no idea. It's like they I mean, Isolo's track record in the EuroLeague with Paris basketball was getting a lot out of smallish guards. And so like that was kind of the thought, all right, that's great for Ja, and it also should be good for Jaren. There's been some confusion about that like revolutionary offense the Grizzlies tried last year. That was not Isolo's stuff. So like Isolo apparently is more as a pragmatist of like, these are the players I have. This is what I'm going to do. So we don't even know, frankly, exactly what he's going to install in training camp and what they're actually going to try to accomplish. If they don't have any shooting, I guess they're going to try to get closer to the basket.
It doesn't matter what style of play you've got. If you don't have shooting in the NBA, you're going to have a hard time doing anything.
I will say, as someone who's watched the Grizzlies, and the year-long criticism was like, oh, this style of forcing turnovers and generating offensive rebounds and winning the possessions battle, it's not going to win in the postseason. Watching the Thunder win a finals game with three three-pointers on, was it less than 20 attempts? I'm like, maybe we could have done it. Maybe we could have gone all defense. I don't know.
Everybody out there can learn a lesson. Just be like the Thunder, Keith. Just
be like the Thunder. You don't have to pay luxury tax. You don't have to make 3-pointers. You can do it, everybody.
All right. That's going to do it for the show, folks. Thanks to Keith Parish for hanging out. For Es Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.